crafty friends, Christina here with you from Sunny Day Memories. So this month we are featuring the fruit salad paper collection that's from Stampin' Up that you can earn for free with the Sale-a-Bration promotion that is actually ending at the end of the month. So your time is limited to get this for free, but we're trying to go ahead and showcase this because it is so lovely. Like if you look at these beautiful, vibrant fruit patterns on the one side and then you flip it over, and you've got a great mix of some more fruit on a couple of them, but other ones are just kind of small print that would work for any project. So this week we are going ahead and we are creating a fun shaker card using the flip flaps. While these were initially created for scrapbooking, they make some fun cards that have a nice interactive twist to them. So today I'm going to show you how to make this shaker card using that 3x3 flip flap. Along with featuring the fruit salad paper here, we are going to be also featuring the Day to Celebrate, which is also another freebie that you can earn with Sale-a-Bration through Stampin' Up's promotion through the end of this month. And so this is a really fun one, not just for like birthdays, but it could be for retirement, for getting married, just so many different celebratory occasions that you could use this stamp set for. So we are going to go ahead and start with our supplies here. So rather than making it a traditional card that you open up, since it does already have this open up portion here, and I made it so there's a portion to right here, I'm making it almost like a postcard style base. So this is just a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 piece. It does not open up. It's just a flat piece of the basic white. And then I am taking a piece of early espresso that is just 1/4 inch less than that. So it measures 4 by 5 1/4. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and adhere it here to the base. And then after that, we are going to go ahead and start layering some of our fruit salad papers. So I've got that early espresso glued on. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of this real red print that's got the apples on the back side. This measures 3 7/8 wide by 3 3/4 tall. So it's just like 1/8 of an inch shy of the edge here. And I'm going to actually go ahead and tear along the base here just so that I can expose that white core to it. Gives it a little bit more visual appeal to that. And then I also have a piece of the mixed fruit, and this one again measures 3 7/8 long by 1 3/4 inch tall. So I'm gonna go ahead and glue this fruit one here to the base first so that I've got that very slight border on the left and the right and the bottom. And then that way I can go ahead and adhere this one right on top of that, and it's gonna show off that nice tear that I've done. All right, next we're gonna go ahead and start creating our shaker element here. So to do that, I am using 2 different pieces of the basic white. They're both the same size. They measure 3 inches wide, but they're slightly shorter. They're 2 7/8 tall. And you'll see why when we get to the shaker element here, but we've got one for the front and one for the back. And so we're gonna go ahead and do our stamping. And the colors that I'm using are the Real Red, Daffodil Delight, and Pool Party. And I'm also bringing in some of the Stampin' Right markers as well. I'll be using the Early Espresso, the Real Red, and the Pool Party to do some with that. So I'm gonna go ahead, like I said, I'm gonna use the Day to Celebrate. I'm gonna be using the little hat. I'm gonna be using the Sentiment All Day Your Way, the little topper for the hat, and then the fun little confetti there. So let's go ahead and start working on that front piece, stamping it all up. I've gone ahead and already stamped the hat and the confetti, but I wanted to show you a trick with the Real Red in case you weren't aware of this. You may have noticed when you previously stamped any purples or reds that your stamp images become tinted because those are really strong pigmented inks. So if you don't really like that so much, you can do this little trick. You can go ahead and stamp in the Versamark ink first and then go to your red or your purple color and stamp as usual. And you'll just have a little barrier. That little Versamark will go ahead and when you clean it off, I'm just going to go ahead and wipe my stamp. It's still going to tint a little bit, but it's not as red as it would be if I did not use the Versamark. And so I'm going to do that same trick with the little topper here on the hat. I'm going to go ahead and ink it up in the Versamark, then into the Real Red. And I also wanted to show you this other little trick. So I stamped it once and then I twisted it, and without re-inking it, I stamped it a second time just to kind of make it look a little bit fuzzier, a little fuller. It just makes the pom-pom look just a little bit more fluffy, I guess. So that's another trick that you can do with that. The other thing I wanted to show you is if you look at my sample, you could just leave it just like this, but notice how I went and I took my markers and I added little dots. So I took my Real Red, and it has 2 different tips. It has got a brush tip and it's got a bullet point. We're gonna use the bullet point. If you go in and just add some dots randomly around that confetti bunch. Can you already see how just adding this real red just really intensifies and brings the colors all together? And it's not hard to do at all. And so now I'm doing the same thing with the pool party using the bullet tip. And I'm just finishing out, going in and adding some here. There's really no rhyme or reason. I'm just kind of trying to space them out, getting a good mixture of the colors. And like I said, this is super simple, but it really does add a nice touch. It really elevates the project from just having that Daffodil Delight to adding the 3 colors. And so now we've got the one side already stamped. So now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna work on the back side here, doing that same thing where I'm gonna stamp the sentiments and then I'm gonna do the confetti and add the marker trick. So I just finished stamping this and I wanted to just show you again because I just think it's so powerful adding these little dots, because right now it doesn't look like it's very full and filled in, but once you start going in and adding these other colors, just adding some dots here and there, it just starts to make it look much fuller, much more like a party is happening. It's so magical and it's just so easy. So I hope that this little trick is something you haven't tried before, or maybe you have and you just have forgotten about it, and it's something that you can incorporate into your crafting once again. So now that we have both of them stamped, what I actually did is I glued them back to back. And the one thing to keep in mind is that it's going to be flipping upright. So one is going to be upright for you, but the other one's going to be upside down, because when you flip it over, right, then you want it to be upright. So just keep that in mind when you're gluing it together. And I'm gluing it together just because I don't want any of those sequins to fall in between the two of them. So again, I am checking. See, I've got it wrong way. So that's upright, this is upright. So when I flip it, and so then I went ahead and I lined them up and glued them together, just like that. And again, test to make sure it's upright, upright. And then that's when I went and took my Stampin' Right, and I took my marker. This time I'm using the marker instead of the bullet, and I just kind of inked up the edges. That way, if any imperfections are showing, then it kind of hides that, because it's gonna have that early espresso matte behind it, and so it just ties it all in together. And so you can do it from this one side, and then you can flip it over and do it on the other side as well. And again, like I said, it just kind of hides any of those imperfections, which is great. So it's a quick, easy thing that you can do. And there, we're done. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna slide that into our flip flap. So our flip flap, how it works is the white piece this is the adhesive behind this. So that white strip you want towards you, and you're gonna go ahead and put the piece in here that you want on the front that's all day your way. And so see, the reason we had it be a little shorter is that there's a little bit of room in there. It might be hard to see since it's clear. I like just put it against us. So you can see how there's a little bit of space in there. And that's so that we can go ahead and seal this closed before we seal it to the card. And so now what I did is I took the adhesive back shiny sequins. Let me open this up again so I can show you. And I took the adhesive backing off of them to become my little shaker elements. So what I did is I took my U-pick tool like this, and you just go ahead and press off, and you get the little disc of the adhesive off that back there. And so I just went and did that, and then I put all of them into a little baggie here, so I had a bunch ready. And we're gonna go ahead and stick those inside on the front and the back of our little shaker thing to add those nice shaking elements. All right, so I've gone ahead and I put some on the front, or this is rather the front, and then some on the back. Another tip I wanted to give you as I was putting them in there, I remembered that if you have the anti-static pouch for embossing, that is great if you feel like they're still a little sticky after you've gone ahead and removed the little disc of the adhesive. You can just rub it real quick against the pouch and then go ahead and pop it into your flip flap here. Okay, so now comes the part where we're gonna seal it closed. So this is when I recommend that you use the tear and tape. And this is probably the trickiest part of this card, just because it's already kind of sealed here, and we want to get it underneath this lip. Hopefully that's showing through. You want it in that small space, so that way it is sealing the card closed. So you want it to be just as long as that opening. And then you're going to go ahead and make sure you're pushing down the card in there, and then you're going to stick this in there without getting it in the wrong spot. And this is why it's kind of tricky, because it kind of wants to go up a little bit higher, but you want it to be down lower. So you're just gonna keep going in there. And then we're gonna go ahead and take your U-pick tool so that you can go ahead and remove that backing. Pull that off. This last little part curled on me, but that's okay. I'm just gonna stick that in there, and it's gonna be okay because we're gonna cover it up, so don't worry if the end part looks a little yucky. So now I'm just gonna seal those two together. So now you can see that adhesive, right? That tear and tape, which you could just leave it like that if you know you didn't mind seeing it, but I wanted to hide it, so I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna hide that. But first, we're gonna go ahead and put it onto our card. So we're gonna go ahead and remove this white backing, and now the adhesive is exposed on the flip flap. So we're gonna hold that flap downward because we wanna go ahead and stick it down to the card. So we're gonna go ahead and center it from left to right and go down maybe an inch from the top, and then go ahead and stick that down, just like that. And then this is where we're gonna go ahead and bring in our early espresso piece we have. And this one measures, it's a 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 square, because it's gonna go right over this bottom portion here. So that way this is going to be centered, that white piece is gonna be centered over, or yep, over it like that. So then it looks like it's matted, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and put some adhesive behind this and stick that down. So I'm just going ahead and I'm using the edge of the flip flap, and then I'm looking at the top and the bottom so that I can get it centered underneath there, because I want it to be a nice equal amount of that early espresso to be showing through. So I've got that down. So then I have a smaller square of the white. This one measures 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. So this is where I can go ahead and adhere this. So this is where I can write my sentiment or stamp a sentiment if I wanted additional words on there, or you could just sign your card as well. Oops, that looks like it's a little crooked as I'm like looking at it from this perspective. Let's straighten that out a little bit. Okay, so now to go ahead and hide the adhesive there, I went ahead using the same paper that you have as your background. So that is this Real Red. This measures 3 3/8 long by 1/4 inch tall. So I am gonna go ahead and put adhesive on it. Oops. And I'm gonna stick it right on top of that flip flap here on the front. And if it's a little bit long, which mine did end up being a little bit long, just go ahead and take a pair of scissors and snip off your extra. No big deal. Then you also have it on the inside, right? So you're gonna go ahead and do the same thing where you're gonna put some adhesive on this one and stick it down. So I'm just measuring it up right up against the other one on the other side. So it's like I'm sandwiching that flip flap in there. And if I can see a little bit through, which I can see just a tiny bit here, I'm just gonna go ahead and trim that off. And there you have it. A fun, interactive little shaker card using the flip flap and these beautiful fruit salad papers. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a future one. Oh, and I actually just noticed I forgot to put my little gems here up at the top. That's the only other thing I did with it. So I just stuck 2 up there, as you can see here, as I was looking at my final thing here. So you could add that or not add it, because it's got enough here with the little shaker element in it. So anyway, be sure to subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss future videos. And until next time, stay crafty.